Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're diving into something super useful if you're working with design. How to use Photoshop in InDesign. I'll also be comparing 3 common file types, PDF, JPG, and PNG, and show you how they affect the final quality when it comes to printing. Whether you're designing for clients or working on personal projects, understanding these formats can make a big difference in the prints. Let's get started. So here I'm going to show you all how I use InDesign with Photoshop to use my to import my files. So I have the Photoshop file here. I've updated the dates. Um, this is not a real wedding, but this is just to show you how I transfer my files from Photoshop to InDesign. And I prefer InDesign because depending on the file type, it will give you a different print. And I just like to use InDesign to keep it consistent. You can always export through Photoshop if that's what you prefer. This does have crop marks or a bleed, so it is, even though it's a 3.5 by 5, it does have a 0.125-inch bleed all around. So in InDesign, I'm going to create a new file, and I do have this saved in my document presets, which I can show in another video if you'd like, about how to save document presets, but there's also stuff available online in other videos, or I'm sure Adobe has some information on that. So I'm going to call this 3.5 by 5-inch sample, because I'm just using this for showing you all how to do these. I'm going to do landscape since the file is a landscape file. I only want one page, and I prefer using units, inches, just because I already know inches and I know what file size I want. Making sure the bleed and the margins are 1.125 inch, and this will show up on the file itself. So here you can see this red line is the bleed. This blue purplish line is the margin. That's just to keep it within this space, whatever it is that I'm designing, so it doesn't get cut off, which it wouldn't in my case because I'm printing from home, but if you're trying to send it to, I don't know, Printswell or whatever your printer you're using, that's what they're for. So I just like to keep it that way because that's what I use. So I'm going to use the rectangle frame tool to create a preset file, preset size for the file. Sometimes depending on where you save your files, may affect how they upload. But to show you all, this is what the end of file will look like. To preview what it will look like, I always click W just to make sure everything looks good. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to export this. I'm just going to save it to my downloads because I'm not going to keep this. It's just a sample. And I make sure that the format is for Adobe PDF Print. To make sure that your printing file is in CMYK, go to Document Setup. Intent is for print. You can always put mobile, web, and this is what you can adjust here. So again, export 3.5 by 5-inch sample file, save. And then you can use your document bleed settings or not, up to you. I believe a lot of printers do require this, though. Okay, so now this is a PDF file for print. If I were to export this file through Photoshop, it only gives me certain preferences or file settings, right? Formats. So I'm going to show you what those prints would look like if I were to use PNG or JPEG. So color space is sRGB because we're printing. So I'm going to save this same to the download, call this the same thing. This one I'm going to call PNG just because I want to know which files I'm printing. And then I'm going to do the same thing again, but as a JPEG. Okay, make sure everything looks good. JPG. Save. Okay. So this is just like a gray and white text, so there might not be too much of a difference. It's more of when you have a variety of colors that it will make a huge difference, but printing with these colors probably won't, but we're gonna see. So I don't have pre-printed or pre-cut 3.5 by 5 files or cardstock, so I'm going to just be using 8.5 by 11 inch to show you. In any other case, I would have cut these ahead of time, and but this is a 100 pound, I believe, cardstock, just plain white cardstock. I'm going to start off with this one, and I'm going to open with preview, and my printing is going to be Canon, and then my file is an 8.5 by 11. Do borderless, and I make sure that the scaling is 100%, not 152. So going to send to the printer. Okay, so here's the pre-print. Before I cut, I mean. That's what it looks like. Okay, here's the second one. This is a PNG. And I will show you side by side once I'm done with all three cutting and comparing. Last one. Now I'm going to cut. That's how it's looking. Okay. So the files have been cut, and here you can see all three of them. There really is not much difference between the three. This one is slightly more yellow. This one is more gray. And these two essentially look the same. So I bet you couldn't tell which one is which just by looking at these right now. This one is the JPEG, or the PNG file. That's what it looks like. This one is the JPG file. I didn't write it on the back. But this is the JPG file. And this is the PDF. So it honestly just depends on what you're looking for. I don't know if you can tell the difference in color. These two really do look the same, like you can tell, but this one is definitely more yellow. The text itself does not look different. It's really just the background. Another thing is that because there was no crop marks, I had to kind of guess. When I was cutting, I used a scoring tool. These two are about 0.125 bigger than this one. They didn't have crop marks, so I kind of had to just guess. Here, I think I marked it with something, my finger, probably. That's why I prefer using PNG or the PDF file. I'm using this against this blue background so you can see the difference. And then this is the back of them. They all look the same because, again, it was the same cardstock. It was just the file type that I was testing.